and welcome back to my channel, Lady T. My name is Nathalie, and today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you can follow me here. Then you know that I do dabble in some art now and then, but I'm not too confident in it, and instead of keep practicing, I stop and I make something every now and then. Now, this worked out for me when I did my internship last year for the study social work, which I quit. But I did an internship also in a group for creative people, for people who wanted to do art, and I was able to do art myself because we were with two people. And that was the first time in my life that I had someone teaching me and guiding me through the process of actually making stuff and creating. And that is how I got to a whole new level and actually experienced, like, she gave me tips that were so I had never thought about. And usually I don't really take critique well when it comes to my art, especially because I'm already harsh on myself, so I don't usually show it. So that was one of the first times that I actually was like, okay, so I'm not as terrible as I thought I was. So my idea, because YouTubers all over the place have done this so many times, but this is the art book that I've had most recently, because I usually get rid of my art books because I hate the art and I get so frustrated, make one doodle in it and I'm like, no, I'm not good enough, I'm not a professional, goodbye. And that is not someone who I want to be. I want to develop and I want to be less critical of myself and persevere in trying to become a good creator. So my idea is that we're first going to flip through the pages that I've already done, and then I'm going to fill this up, this entire art book, and I'm going to do it for YouTube so that there is a stick behind the door, as we would say here in the Netherlands. So that I keep going instead of being like, okay, I'm not good enough, goodbye. So hopefully that will push me a little, and then hopefully I will start liking it to the extent where I don't have to be pushed anymore to do it. So that's the idea, and then after we finish it a year later, I want to redo everything and keep learning in that year. So let's first flip through the book that I have now. It's very blank. I never dared to do anything on the cover because I was like, I'm not good enough, so I'm not going to ruin it. But yeah, I picked up this art book because I saw one of my favorite YouTubers do a painting, and it's going to be on the next page. And I thought, oh well, that doesn't look too difficult, so I'm sure that I can do it. Well, look at how miserably I failed. Yeah, so it's a watercolor background, and it mixed so easily in the other YouTuber's video that I was like, oh, it's not too difficult. But of course, I picked up my very cheap, very not good quality watercolors, and I was like, okay, let me try this out. And the trees, I just kept adding more and more, and it is sure an adventure. I was right about that. So as you can see, we started on the 21st of May on 2019. So this goes back 3 years now. 2 years. I can't count. 2 years. Here I wanted to try out some realism, because that, I think I'm drawn more to that than cartoons. But we're just going to try. I don't know what my art style will be, so we're just going to try out different things. So we first tried out a realistic eye, and I'm quite proud of myself. But then always there's this voice in the back of my head that's like, yeah, but you didn't come up with it yourself, you followed the tutorial. But I'm like, but still, that's good. So don't listen to that voice, it's good. I would change some things now because it's not really round, it's more of an pressed oval kind of thing, but for a test it was really good. I'm proud of it. And the nose I'm really happy with. Maybe these could be a little less harsh, the lines, but I like the shading, and I'm actually proud for my first realistic nose. The mouth I gave up on. As you can see, I wrote ugh. I was so done with it, I think. I just remember making this mouth and I was like, this is not working out. I'm so done with this. And instead of just pressing on, I was like, okay, I'm done. Just let it be. And now I look back at it and I'm like, it's not perfect, but it was coming along. So maybe I shouldn't have given up so easily, but that was the past. I'm not going back in right now. Oh yeah, and then on Facebook there was someone who was like, oh yeah, I can always imagine Leaf as Bob Ross. And I was like, oh, I'm going to draw you that. And I drew it, and I was drawing it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not that good yet at art, so it didn't come out as I hoped it would, not as I had it in my head. But yeah, so this is the thing that I made. I can't wait to see what I will do with it next year though, because this really should be better. This is not how I imagined it in my head. And we have this on the 12th of June from one of the books I'm going to be showing you in a little bit. So also a tutorial, and I have done this many times in my life and it keeps getting better and better. And this version is the one that I like the most. In past ones I know that I have the snout a holder and a lot longer, and I just feel like it's a bit more realistic right now. Then we go on to the next year, 2020, and I kind of developed something with this that I really liked, putting one of those little thingamaboys, those little colored papers on a page and going beyond the lines that they gave me. And I also tried out some line work with some lines with shading. I had seen it in some art and I never really liked it, but I was like, okay, let me just try this out. And I'm not too... It's not perfect, but this I made without a reference and without a tutorial, so I'm quite proud of myself actually. Like, this leg is a little bit awkward, maybe now I would put it down. Like, the knee would be here and just resting a bit more on the thing that she's sitting on. I think it was supposed to be a windowsill or something. And the little cat, of course, is not very realistic, but it's there. This one, of course, is a little bit... You can see that I don't really know what to do with the eyes and stuff. I go in and I'm like, oh, I'm going to make this super realistic, but then I draw small. And I'm like, I don't know where to begin, and the hands are just an atrocity. So yeah, this didn't really work out well, but I wanted to try something out. And the pose I'm not too angry with. This is supposed to be a panda bear, also without a reference. So I'm quite proud of how I came up with that. Without a reference, maybe I should use it more often. And then we did some doodles here on this page. With the really silly looking duck and a little lion. I wanted to make the lion look a bit like a sun as well. I don't know why, but I did. And the squirrel is on something. I don't know what he's on, but he's on something. And I think that this is supposed to be a bee. I don't know why I made it like that, but... Or I tried to come up with something, because here I made a fantasy creature. Maybe that was supposed to be something fantasy as well. I honestly have no idea. But we made this also in January of 2020. Oh yeah, here I had an idea of a fairy, and that worked out like this. One thing I noticed is that with my models, or with the people who are supposed to be people or elves, or you know what I mean, that they seem very static, that their movement doesn't really look natural. So that is one of the things that I want to practice. And I can see that I try to do a little more harder work on the hands. And it is a little bit better than the other one. And I just gave up on the feet, I can see. The hair and the flowers on it, I kind of like. Could be a lot better, but from where I am right now, I'm not too angry with it. And this is the first time that I kind of like the breasts. Sometimes when I draw females and I have to draw their breasts, I'm like, how do you do that? Because you want to give a hint of boobs, but you don't want to make it look like, here are the badonkers. Like, no. So I want to learn that as well. And here we just doodled some plants. This one, I wanted to do a sunflower. Except for the leaves, I kind of like it. This is bamboo, I think. I like this one. And this one is cute. And I can live with that one. And this we did from the same book that I'm just going to show you in a minute. This dog I've also done before, and I'm actually really happy with how this one turned out. Quite proud of myself. Oh yeah, and then of course if you have been on Facebook, then you've probably seen one of these videos where a very talented guy just mixes these crayons, I think you would call them. I don't know. I have the package here. They are called... No, I just see the package name. Okay. But you mix them and then you blur them into each other and then you go in with black and make a shape and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, that also doesn't seem too difficult. I think I can do that, just like the watercolor. And it didn't really mix well. Like, at least from my perspective, I'm like, no. But I kind of like the flowiness of her hair. It feels less static than the body movement that I had done in previous drawings. This is supposed to be a cat, and I think that could have been a little bit different. But I'm really happy with the hair. Sometimes I can be a little bit too... It doesn't really flow. Like, my hand is just like, no, it needs to be tight lines. But here I kind of like it. And I wanted to make a circle here, but it didn't really work with the tape, so we have this odd looking shape. And the moon didn't really turn out as white as I hoped it would. But the idea is nice, and for the first one I'm really happy with it. And on the same day we continued. Let me get this baking paper out of the way. Out of the way, not in the way. And here I try to do something myself with looks. And it's a bit smudged because I went over with white, because for some reason I thought it needed it. It didn't. Spoiler alert. But here the moon is more defined, you can see it. It's really white, but there is no depth to it. But I like the colors, especially the radiance here. And then this is a bit too dark for my liking, but the rest I like. And there's a little kitty cat sitting on a branch. And I'm kind of happy with the branch as well, because usually when I do branches of trees, I'm like, nope. This time I kind of like them. And I kind of like this one as well. Also adding here with white some stripes, and that didn't work out as I would have liked. The trees are already going better than from the first aqua painting that we did. There isn't a date to it, but there is on this page, and that's on the 21st of June of 2020. So I think that this one was made about there as well. I do like that I added the little white line here so that you can actually see that there are two different hills. Maybe these trees should have been even a little bit smaller to really make it look like more in depth. And I kind of like the sun that we have going on here. And some of these are supposed to be clouds. Maybe I could have done a little bit different with them, but I'm happy with how this turned out. And the one that I'm most proud of in the whole sketchbook, I'm so happy that I can show you this. I'm really happy with this one. With this lady, I had the idea for the skirt and with these colors, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. And also with these crackly lines, I was like, when I put them down, I was like, no, that's not what I meant to do. But now I don't really mind them. And then I was like, yeah, the rest of the lady, what are we going to do with that? And then I just colored it in black, and I was like, yes, I love this. And then we made her hair a little bit brown with darker brown here and lighter brown there. And it's not colored in perfectly, like you can still see some of the paper behind, but I really like this one. This is a style that I would like to explore more, I think. Because in a bit I'm going to show you another one that kind of has the same style going on. Here I just made this. I wanted to do something with it, but I was like, I don't know what. So we just left it, but I really liked the colors and the shading. And on this side, I like the idea. But of course I'm not that good yet, so it's not how I envisioned it, especially the submarine. But this is called Looking for Atlantis. And it's like the light in front of the submarine is showing Atlantis, but they can't quite get there. So the only way they can see the city is through the light. So that was the idea. and I kind of like it, but it's not perfect. It doesn't have to, perfection doesn't exist, of course, but you know, it could have been a little bit different. I like the colors and how they fade into each other though. This one I'm not really happy with, but the rest, it's not horrible. Then I did this one a month later on July, and I like it. I don't really like the stripes, the white stripes that I did. I like them a bit better at the top. And the movement of the wheel is not really natural. It's a bit awkward, but not as awkward as I used to make my movement. And I really like the shading here, or the shading, the darker colors going in there. I should have stopped a little bit more here, I think. Just going like that. But I'm happy with it. And then this one I want to show you, that is the one that is also in the style of the woman with the skirt. One detail, also without a reference, this is just what I had in my head. So I'm quite proud of how the nose and the lips turned out, and that it actually looks like a face. So this is a lady sunbathing or sitting with her hat and some sunflowers on it. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I can't wait to make this one bigger. I actually want to make a big version of this. And then we just did some testing over here. We've also, I got some new paints. So we did some testing, like how does it look when you're combining some colors, and how can we make some skin color look good. So that is something that I learned at my internship, like testing it out and not just going in straight away. Test and then you go in. Also play. Don't test until the end of your days, like you have to start at some point, but testing is a good way to kind of learn about the objects that you're using. Here we did some ideas for painting a lady that I will show you when we get to the painting. And then 2 weeks ago actually, when I'm filming this, we went to the zoo and I had done some challenges that my internship leader told me to do, where you draw stuff in 30 seconds. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but what you have to do is jot down what you need. Like you're going to place the lines, you don't really care about the details, except for when you think that they're needed and that you need to know them for when you're making real art. But so I was drawing some pinwings, the shapes of them. So they are not perfect, but they are not supposed to be, because they're sketches, and I'm learning to let go of that and not have the need to make everything perfect, because that is how I went into art. And then my teacher told me, like, but that's not fun. Like, do you enjoy yourself when you're doing art? And I'm like, no, because it's not coming out as I want it to be. And she was like, oh, and that's so amazing. And I was like, what? She said, yeah, if it doesn't turn out the way it is, the way that you had it in your head, then that's amazing, because then you discover new things about the art that you're making. And I was like, okay, maybe I should start thinking a bit more like that then. Like this otter. If I hadn't put a name beneath it, that this was supposed to be an otter, then I would have never known. Can you focus? Thank you. It doesn't look like an otter, like at all. This one is a flamingo, I think, but it doesn't matter because it's a sketch, and you learn to draw shapes and learn to look in a different way. And here we have a little owl. I've never drawn such a realistic looking owl, and it's only a sketch. So I'm proud of myself for that. It's an uhu. And of course here we went in with some more details to make it look like an owl a little bit more. And with the eyebrows I was like, it just needs that. Because it defines who it is, what the creature is. And the rest is empty. Because I never really sit down to make art. But that is going to change right now. So yeah, I'm also going to show you in this video some photos that I've put on Instagram and talk to you a little bit about that. But the idea is that we're going to work in that art book, and that I'm just going to post videos of how I work. Some just might be sketches, some might be a little bit more in-depth art where I actually color and do stuff like that. Of course, I have some books for reference, because I always thought that if you're a real artist, that you should be able to make stuff without a reference. That you should be able to make stuff that comes into your head, and all the creative people can do that without thinking about it. But it turns out that that's not the case. So I have some books which we're going to be using and drawing out, and just following these as tutorials. So this is how to draw animals easily, and I've used that in the book before, as I have shown you. It's a really easy book to follow, at least for me. I will show you which dogs have we done already. Yeah, like this one. So the snout is a bit bigger than the one that I made, but I'm happier with mine. Haha, she says proudly. But yeah, here you can see how they want to make everything. Now, how they want you to do everything. This one was a bitch when I was younger. I could never do that one. Not with looking good, but we are going to try it again. So yeah, we're going to use this to draw animals and learn a little bit more about that. I really like drawing insects. I have something with bugs lately, and I have a book for dinosaurs as well, so I want to check that out. I also have a book for fantasy artists. This one is so much further than I am right now. It looks so good. But yeah, first they talk about all the stuff that you need, of course. I really want to draw this one. I like it. So maybe we're going to start with that. Sometimes I just like to take a picture and just draw just try to redraw it myself. So not with a step-by-step tutorial, but painting from reference. Then we have drawing the head. I want to learn how to draw people. Maybe I can't, maybe you'll find out that I really suck at it, but I haven't tried, so we shouldn't give up before we have tried, I think. I'm just going to try and teach yourselves and look up certain tutorials online, and I will just make videos out of that. It's going to be fine. Look how amazing they look. Like even this style, where it's not overly realistic, but more of a hand-drawn style, like I want to be able to do something like this. And then we have also one, because I don't want to give up on animation and cartoon immediately. We're going to try and follow this one, which I have tried to do, because this one, at least to me, it feels like really teaches you how to make body movement more flowy and less static like I was doing. So even if you don't end up going in the cartoon way, if I don't like that, then I think it's a good practice with the flowiness of the characters that we're going to be making in the future. So I think that's a really good idea.